And I am from the Chaos Computer Club, especially I'm living in Berlin. And because I suspect that most of you have no clue what the CCC is, I'm going to start explaining that to you. So, what is the Chaos Computer Club? Chaos Computer Club was founded in 1981, so it's a very old institution in a way. Was founded by a group of people interested in technology in general and also concerned of developments in society, effectively looking forward and seeing that technology is going to change our lives anyway, sooner or later, and today this is not really news. We call ourselves a galactic community, people that are interested in technology but also concerned about technology, because there's always the risk and there's always the chance, and you really have to make a difference. And the only way to achieve that is know what you're doing and know what you're dealing with. So the CCC more or less attracts people who are really interested in technology and really want to understand. So it's the general, well, that's like a hacker is, and that's how we call ourselves. We are a hacker group in the best sense of the word. CCC itself is quite a decentralized structure. So basically there's no structure. We have, of course, we've got regional clubs. Everything is very much based on regional activities. Of course, we've got mailing lists and websites and the usual stuff to bring people together. There's also a magazine in German, Die Datenschleuder, which is like published 4 times a year. And we're probably best known for our international conferences and workshops we're doing. The group itself has around 1,200 members, which is a flexible number. It really depends on how you look at it, but it means this is like the core supporter group. The active group might be a lot smaller, but it's still a very lively scene. We're spread out throughout the German-speaking areas in Europe, so Germany and Switzerland and Austria, with strong links to other areas in Europe as well. So most of the stuff is being done in the cities, and I'm from Berlin, and that's where most of the things take place. One of these things is the Chaos Communication Congress, or C3. It's an international annual conference on technology, culture, society, hacking, science, everything that is interest to hackers. This year, for the first time, it's going to last 4 days, usually 3 days, but we have to extend because we are expecting more than 3,500 participants. So it's like 4 days, 24 hours a day, party going on, lots of talks, very interesting. And if you are in Germany at that problematic date, you might want to join. In the summertime, we have an option where every 4 years we're doing an international hacker open air event, which is basically the same idea of the Congress, but outside in tents. So we're building up huge network structures on a field, building huge infrastructure out of nothing, which is part of the fun we have. And, well, it's not as many people coming there, but around 2,000 participants usually join. So that's the story of the CCC, and the CCC itself, as I already told you, is quite old. And I'm going to tell you a 2-part story now of a special hack we did. And this special hack started, of course, in Berlin, in Germany, in 2001. 2001 was a very interesting year for us because our Wouw Holland, the founder of the CCC, died. Quite a surprise for us. He was almost 50, so nobody expected that to happen. It was really shock for us. So this really strengthened our wish to do something really special. So we had this spontaneous idea to make a big celebration out of the 20th anniversary that we had in that year, and which would be in September. So our plan was to have an exhibition on the CCC and its history and the hacker culture in general, and especially in Germany, which we did, and a big party, which we did as well. And we found a very interesting place right in the center of Berlin, the Congress Hall, where we're doing our Chaos Communication Congress every year now as well. And this is a really interesting building. The complex is called Haus des Lehrers. So it's a conference hall on the right side, and there's another building on the other side. And at that time, both of them were totally empty. And we knew who owned that building, and we had an idea. So we added one more thing, which we called blinking lights. So blinking lights should be an interactive installation, an interactive light installation on the building itself. You know what a hacker thinks when he sees buildings? He thinks, oh, pixels. Every window is a pixel. It's a screen. Go outside, you see tons of screen over there standing around, unused. And this building was one of these unused screens, and we thought we had to do something about this. So we had that plan of turning that building into a computer screen. And we only had 5 weeks. We had no money, and we had effectively no clue how to do this. So we all sat together and figured out a plan. And we finally managed to do something with low cost and low tech. And we called it blinking lights, because blinking lights is part of hacker history. This is a funny sign you can find on the net if you're actually looking for the term. It's sort of a response to a similar sign that was invented by American hackers, which was sort of playing with German accent, but we wouldn't really consider it funny. I mean, Germans wouldn't really consider it funny. So we turned it around, and this sign is probably not funny to you, but it's very funny to Germans. So the last word of this is blinking lights, which was in the original called Blinkenlichten. And sort of blinking lights made it to be the general term for all kinds of flashy computer screen lamps, you know, all this blinking front panel diagnostic things you see on mainframes and huge computers, especially in America, for our project. And our project was like this. We had the building. We had 8 floors. Each floor had 18 windows each. So in total we had 144 pixels. And so we designed a setup, a technical setup, that actually controlled each of this window, treated it as a single pixel, and we wrote some playback software to do movies on this, and we wanted to have it to be interactive. So we invented a telephone interface so you could actually play the computer game Pong on the system. And later on I will explain what we did with the love letters. But first of all, to get an idea, I show you some impressions. This is the building from the top, from the TV tower that's just standing next to it. So you can see the heart. This is the same one as a close-up. So you can see the eight floors on the top. The pictures are actually a bit dark. Can we fix that? Can we make it brighter? No. Can't. Okay. So here you can see the building is really standing inside the city area. It's really at the heart of at Alexanderplatz, where everybody travels. So every day, I don't know, 50,000 people are passing that place. And everybody was quite surprised to see that the building was suddenly come to life. This was actually the first setup we did. Just writing CCC on it, which was the first idea to have anyway. But when the whole system was running, we tried to play with this screen and tried to play with the public in a way. This is an example of all our TLA experiments we had. So this really melted nicely with the environment. Here you can see the place, Alexanderplatz, where it was positioned. And it also gave us the opportunity to really tune into current events that were happening, like this demonstration here, which was the demonstration that was going on when the American attack on Afghanistan was starting. So, like, left-wing groups were joining there, and we're just commenting all this with this peace sign with a flashing exclamation mark and nothing else. And this is how the Pong game looked like. So it's very, very, very super reduced, just the ball and the two pedals and nothing else. So in the end, this Pong game was really the most important part in a way, because it really made people access the building in a very easy way. So we chose it because it was so simple and it was perfectly fitting on the screen as well. So all you had to do is take your phone, call a certain number, and we attach the computer to the system, to the playback system, and it immediately stopped the playback of the movies, and you can play against the computer at that time. And if a second caller was calling in, it would effectively take over the computer role, so you could play Pong with a friend or somebody else you just don't know who was standing somewhere on the place against each other. And of course there was a time limit, so that not all the time you had just the Pong game running, but also the other movies. So except for the interactive part with the Pong game, we also wanted people to participate in and creating beautiful things for the installation, which was part of our general idea of turning it into a screen but making it accessible for everybody. So in order to do that, we wrote an application which we called Blink and Paint. And Blink and Paint was sort of an authoring tool running on macOS and on Windows, effectively a director application if you're interested in it. And you can just use it to interactively paint movies directly on the screen. Here's how it looked like. So you see the building and well, a simple user interface with the typical painting tools, totally overdone, I know. So it was Photoshop reduced to 144 dots. And you can just take the mouse and paint your movies, whatever you like, then store it on a text file format, and then you can create all kinds of funny animations, and that's what people did. So they downloaded the program because they knew they could access the building and were doing their own animation stuff. And because everything was so reduced, you couldn't just convert something you already had. If you would convert videos, the outcome would have been ridiculous. So people really had to use dot by dot and optimize every single frame of that movie they were making. And that's a preview where you can already see how they were experimenting with various things. Really funny. Working with the building as a box, with the building as a building, with the building as a screen, all kinds of stuff. In the end, we got around 1,000 movies sent in half a year. In order to make this whole thing as hacker compatible as possible, we have defined a very super simple file format, which you can see here. That's just a text file you need to create a blinking heart, which was sort of the icon of the installation. You can see like milliseconds, and a 1 is on and a 0 is off. It couldn't be simpler than this. So people were just saving their files to that format. They were also producing all kinds of converters, all kinds of weird conversion tools that were creating output. But in the end, it was just this text file they were sending us by email, and that pretty much worked. We put it into the playlist, so it was played back at random, sort of all the time. So when you looked at the building, it was constantly changing and changing and changing. Yes. And then this was running for quite a while. The problem was at that time that we had, well, we had a timing issue because we chose the date. Yeah, was probably not the best date to start because we finished the installation on September 11th, 2001. So what we did was we finished the installation, switched it on, and then buildings were going up in flames, but in a totally different area. And all the media attention was totally drawn away from our installation. So for 2 weeks' time, nobody took notice of our installation. I don't know why, but the media wasn't getting it at all. There's even a newspaper that was just on the other side of the building, and they haven't been reporting on it. We said, okay, it will take their time. And in the end, it worked out that people finally took notice, and people wanted to do something. And then they called in and said, wow, yes, well, I made a movie for my girlfriend and I really love her, and can you please play back this movie I made for her tomorrow at 4? And we said, oh well, that's problematic because of course we didn't really expect this to happen, and so our software wasn't really able to cope with that. There was no way of playing something in a certain time frame. We could have done that, but in the end we did something else. We integrated this playback on demand into the Pong application so people could do their own movies, send it to us, got a code, and then could call the system whenever they want with a mobile phone and activate the movie at will. And this was very, very popular, as you will see in the movie I will show you. And I don't know, like 300 people were actually using it. Very dramatic scenes. In the end, we did a contest for the movies. Here you can see the jury sitting in front of the building and deciding on what's best. And these are just great examples on what you can do with these super reduced animations. So there were standard computer solutions, simple algorithms like the Towers of Hanoi, very good example for these simple generated stuff, classical animations if you like. Funny but boring. Much better is this one. It's actually hand pixeled, so it's not generated. Every single frame is done by hand, and that's why it actually melts that way. In reality, it even looked much better because we were using simple floodlights, so you also always had the delay when you were switching it off, the afterglow. So it was melting much better than you can present it here in the simulation. Then we were playing around with TLAs, the 3-letter acronyms. So just one afternoon we sat together and said, okay, let's write down all the TLAs that might be relevant to hackers. It took us like 2 hours, and we had, I don't know, 250 TLAs that were somehow meaningful. So we just collected the best of the best and wrote a program that was actually combining them in a meaningful way. So you just had to exchange one letter to get to the next abbreviation, which sort of demonstrated the relationship between all these TLAs. And was basically a joke for the hackers because everybody else was staring at it and didn't know what this means. This one was the hit of the public because they chose it to be the best movie. I really like it because it shows a smoothness in animation that's totally unmatched by any other, especially when you look at the reduced resolution we have. So it's really a cat running here on the building. And then, of course, because of the times then, people were sort of reflecting on the situation by actually playing with the building, being a building, and probably being a hideout for somebody. Watch out. So you can see they were really were adopting the building and playing with it and commenting on the times as well. A last one. Well, I'll skip that. Well, this is computer animated. Maybe you remember the Atari game Kicks. That's the basic idea. That's actually the animation that sounded the best when you were standing inside the building, because we were using mechanical relays. So you were inside, standing at a specific floor, and you hear the pixels rushing in. It was like great sound. We had quite some fun just playing around, guessing which movie was currently running just by listening to it while standing inside the building. Okay, skipping the last, because you will see that in that video as well. Some people did some very nice small stories. Actually, it's the kind of animation that worked best, because they were telling just a very, very, very short story that's sort of funny in a way, playing with the building again and the size. And you can also see that this love story idea was sort of catching on. So people really produced lots of hearts, lots of love-related topics, and the example of the love letters already demonstrated that people were really getting into a relationship with the building, sort of. Okay. Oops. No. Last example, because before I show you the video, this is one of the examples of this love letter thing. So it's one of these movies that was just made by somebody for somebody else. In this case, it's Anna. So if you just imagine you are Anna and you're standing on the Alexanderplatz, and just on demand this movie was playing. I don't know how much time he invested in doing this movie else. So he really explored all the varieties of putting microscopic pictures on it, and designing icons, and playing with letters and transitions between the pictures. Is really, really amazing work. Okay, so now I've shown you enough details so you really know what to deal with. Maybe we can just play back the documentation video we made on this, so you get the real impression on how this looked like in reality. Enjoy.
September 2001. Reclaiming the public space, the Chaos Computer Club turned the famous House of the Teacher into a huge computer screen, just across from Alexanderplatz, the heart of East Berlin. From dusk till dawn, blinken lights continuously showed a variety of alternating animations on its monochrome matrix, 8 pixels high by 18 across. By offering various options for participation, the CCC invited everyone to get involved in this interactive installation. The name of the work was derived from the hackers' jargon for flashing computer consoles, blinken lights. By By dialing the Blinken Lights computer with a mobile phone, passers-by can play the classic computer game Pong on the giant screen. Typically, players are pitted against this to go for another game of Pong.
Ich meine, es ist schon richtig cool, dass man da wirklich auf dem Alex stehen kann, dann mit dem Handy irgendwie so ein Spiel spielen kann, was dann irgendwie an der Hauswand stattfindet. Das ist einfach so, das habe ich noch nie gesehen im Leben und das finde ich einfach total, das nimmt mich einfach mit. Also man kann auf die Taste 8 drücken, die 2 und damit steuert man das dann und das ist einfach geil. Das ist ein Wahnsinnsgefühl, das ist super erhebend, also das nimmt einen mit, das reißt einen sozusagen vom Hocker, vom Alex, das reißt einen vom Alex.
The installation used the top 8 floors of the house of the teacher. Behind the scenes, the pixels were brought to life by 144 floodlights standing directly behind the windows. The windows have been painted white to make them more translucent. Each light was connected to a simple relay, switching the electricity source. From each relay, a long control cable spanned the distance to the control center in the 8th floor, totaling more than 5 kilometers of cable in the whole building. The control center consisted of 3 computers, interconnected via a local area network. Each system was running self-developed software under the GNU Linux operating system. And this is how interaction with Blinken Lights works. People either send their Blinken Lights movies by email or directly call the system with their mobile phone. The Chaos Control Center computer manages the animation playlist or reacts to incoming calls, effectively starting the Pong game at that very moment. The images to be displayed are constantly transmitted to the matrix control computer that is attached to the relays and is responsible for actually switching the individual lights on and off. This wild setup of cables actually worked flawlessly for 166 days and demonstrated that the hacker's approach to technology is sometimes pretty unconventional. Website was an integral part of the project. People could get in-depth information and were invited to participate in a contest for creating new animations for Blinken Lights. The website provided some software tools and documented various technical aspects of the project, like the animation file format, and therefore enabled advanced designers to create sophisticated animations. Developers were encouraged to create their own software tools to build even more complex animations. The site also offered a program called Blinken Paint for downloading. This is an easy-to-use animation program running on Windows and Macintosh computers. Interactively, one could easily create pictures and animations for Blinken Lights. The results could be sent in by email, and the best animations joined the playlist. People also use Blinken Paint to create their very own private messages for their loved ones. Once sent in by email, these love letters could be activated using the mobile phone with a personal code that was given out by the project team. This service was overwhelmingly popular with the Berliners. Hundreds sent in their personal love letters and enjoyed playing them back at will at any time.
People
reaction was incredibly positive. More than 1,000 animations were sent in from all over the world. Hundreds used the building to publish their love letters, and over 250,000 people visited the Blinken Lights website to get more information on the project. And many joined in for the celebration the last night after 23 weeks and 5 days of continuous operation. Capturing the spirit of the time, music artists have integrated the Blinken Lights visuals in their music clips. Golden Boy and Miss Kitten tell the story of a young girl in front of Blinken Lights. Sven Väth surrounded his Je t'aime remake with Blinken Lights windows, and the famous German rock band Die Toten Hosen even decided to film right inside the Blinken Lights installation. Blinken Lights is a public project on public ground and is driven by the participation and support of the public.
I came to London to see Blinken Lights. Ich habe zum ersten Mal von diesem Haus hier in Hongkong gehört.
Interessant hier war das Simple, diese Matrix, einfach nur mit einfachen Glühbirnen was zu machen.
Ich fand das total schön, unheimlich süße Idee, also total romantisch. Blinken Lights ist ja wie Tupperware, ne? Ich bin einfach begeistert.
Ja, also ich finde es sehr schade, dass es vorbei ist.
Ctrl-C.
Ctrl-C. Wow.
Das war's. Okay, so I think you now get an impression on how this how the effect was in the video. That we had a simple system. We could either send in by email or calling it with the control center and this computers that we're using. And this is how it looked like. It was actually a very old 4486 computer running Linux, nothing fancy about it. Everything was totally low-tech, and because we were so low on time, we had to sort of build it right on the spot, so we didn't really have time to prepare it somewhere. We were building it everything in the building itself, and in the end it really reflected the chaotic structure of the whole project. This was the setup that was actually driving the building for 6 months, and we were really believing that this would go into flames after the first week, or would just, I don't know, break down or no longer function. So we were quite surprised that it was actually working so long. But this is how it looked like. So everything was soldered directly on the table, and there were no integrated circuits used at all. This was the setup inside the building, so it's just simple stands and simple floodlights they were using with simple relays. So if you want to recreate this, all you need is very cheap I/O boards, very cheap relay technology, nothing fancy about it. Everything was totally low cost. We have actually put some effort into the software. I think it's quite well designed, and it's on tools like Control Center was actively doing the playback and everything, and the gameplay is built into this. There's a simulator. We can simulate the view of the buildings, and of course converters and so on. We have designed a protocol that all these machines that are interconnected are using. So simple UDP-based protocols sending out the frames, which all made it very flexible for us to address the problem of having such a huge, vastly distributed system in terms of size. Because if you are going into a building, you have everything really spread out. The lamp is on the 12th floor, a computer is on the 8th floor. You have to bring it together somehow, and you have to have the cabling very cheap. So just by spanning all the systems by IP, we got lots of options in terms of distributing it, remote controlling it, and so on. When you use that proxy server, for instance, you can just pass on that stream that's actually that's shown on the building. So the stream of the frames, pass it on to the internet, so you can run your simulator at home and have the same visual impression at home on your computer than exactly the same vision as you have on the building at that time. So if you call the building and play Pong, you can actually play it on your computer, which is sort of funny. So this is all implemented in software, so it's very easy to catch on. So if you got anything you want to do with matrix-based things, maybe the technology is useful for you. Later on in the second project, which will I explain in a few moments, we have redesigned everything and made it a bit more integrated. So this cable chaos you've seen on the other picture is actually brought down to a single main board, and that's what you can see here. So we designed a box that has all the capability inside, so all the technology you need to switch on lamps and switch off lamps is here on a single 486 embedded PC system. So it's fully equipped with amplifiers, with Ethernet, and of course operating system. We're running Linux here as well, and if you're interested, it's a real-time version of Linux. So we could do something we couldn't do in the first installation. We could actually have grayscaling on the lamps, so not only switching them on and off, but you can like fine-tune which kind of brightness you'd like to have on each lamp, and we're doing all this in software. So there's no extensive hardware being used or necessary in order to do the grayscaling on this. So that's a funny little box, and it's all based on free software as well, so it's very easy to replicate. So we have been using this for that second project, which I will tell you about in a few moments, and we have also used that technology. There's this huge group of followers who have been taking up on the blinking lights idea and have been designing all kinds of small-sized blinking lights versions. It's really endless. I'm just mentioning a few here. I haven't updated this slide for a while, but right now I guess it's like 30 different projects that are just using the same technology. So what happened when we finished the Berlin project, which ran quite long. It ran from September 2001 until February, so almost half a year, which was very cool for us because so many people had time to make an acquaintance with the building, design new movies, and come to other funny ideas. We had a lot of interaction with the city, and when we finally turned it down, everybody was quite sad. And then we got a call from a young lady in Paris, and she asked if we can do this again. And we said, well, we could do this again, but only if you have an interesting building for us. And then she said, okay, I'll call you back. And 1 month later, she came back to us and said, well, I've got an interesting building, and it's in Paris, and maybe you like it. And then in the end, it turned out to be the Bibliothèque Nationale de France, the French National Library, which is a huge glassy building made of 4 L-shaped towers, the last project of François Mitterrand, the who influenced architecture in Paris quite a lot. This was his last big project, and these towers were made available to us, only one, of course. I would have loved to do two, but well, they didn't give us two, so we only had one, and was part of an arts night, sort of, which was new that time, and we were sort of the flagship project in this single night. In the end, the installation should have run 2 weeks, was 12 days or 13 days, something like this. And that's where we designed the technology completely new for those. So we rewrote the softwares, we redesigned the hardware, put it into the box I already showed you, and found a solution how we can extend the 144 pixel idea to even more, because this time we had to address 20 floors, 26 windows, and each window was like double size. So it's 520 pixels. And we wanted to do the grayscaling, and then we wanted to extend the playback software to be much more manageable. And we introduced some kind of real-time modules so we can mix between things and put filters on it, making it looking much more, I don't know, softer. Everything was running a bit smoother. And we, for the first time, produced an API, a programming interface, so people could actually not only send in movies, but also send in games. And that's what they did. So in the end, we had 4 different games to offer. So in addition to the Pong, which was obvious, we also had Tetris, which was also obvious, and Breakout, and even a Pac-Man version on that building. Of course, we had to produce an interface for people doing the software again. So we took our old Blinken Paint application and bumped it up to the new building, new mask, new pictures, and of course we had to extend the file format because it was monochrome in the first version. Now we had to address grayscales, probably even color in the future. Didn't use color here, and we're probably not going to use it in the future. If you want to ask that, I can explain. And we were moving to XML for, you know, French names and all that. That's how it looked like. So we were playing around. We have a totally new format, sort of. It was much higher. So it was sort of asking for the Bibliothèque Nationale. We also thought that some classic images would perfectly match. So while trying to find the right imagery, we again focused on capabilities of the software. File format then looked like, so you can see grayscaling is here included. It also worked for the Blinken lights, because later on we used the technology again on the Haus des Lehrers, and you can see it really looks unreal, and really looked unreal in reality as well. So here you can see the tower, the front, and you can see the grayscaling actually work. Like here in the Pac-Man game, it's really neatly used to make a difference between the monsters, between the walls, and between the pixels you have to eat. And experimenting with photography and photographic style was totally new this time. Something we just couldn't do with a monochrome version of it. Mona Lisa, that's obvious. You can see that we actually integrated the movies of the old installation into the new one as well, putting the TV Tower of Berlin aside. And for some imagery, here you can see this Alfred Hitchcock face we had on the simulator before. And this was shot from, I guess, one or even 2 kilometers distance. And some images have been so incredibly huge that even standing 500 meters away wasn't really enough to grasp the picture in total. Of course, it's easier if it moves, but if it's just a fixed picture, like in this example, you really have to step back. And then you can see how the building suddenly becomes a totally different role assigned in the city, because you can just stand somewhere and look at the building, and it's just something unreal popping up in the building that you didn't see before. So we played around with that, and yeah, it worked pretty well. We also did some experimenting with real-time visualization, the modules I've been talking about, but also video conversion. At the last day we had a party going on the other side of the river. The bibliothèque is just standing at the La Seine, at the river. So on the other side we've been setting up a small party, and there was a VJ doing VJing in real time. So we took the video signal and converted it, made it digital, and sent it directly to the building over a wireless link. And then we showed the video that he was producing on his Mac in real time on the building, which was probably the biggest VJ screen ever. And you can see how these pictures relate. It's like the transformation from the original imagery to the way it looked like on the building. You will see, in the video I will show you, you will probably, if you just keep in mind the dancing person, if you see the dancing person, then you see not a prepared movie, but this real-time version. And because the DJ is really in control of things like brightness and contrast, the pictures look even much more vivid on the building. That was really impressive. We also did things like converting audio to visual representations and that stuff, which was quite obvious. So, yeah, let's dive into the second documentation video, which is a bit different than the first one. This time, the video starting with an interview I was giving to the 2600 radio in New York, which was quite funny. They were calling us from New York, and they were asking for people to call in, and they were calling in from Paris. So it was going to and fro, sort of. But it's a nice introduction into how it all developed. And then, we'll see lots of impression on how this looked like. And afterwards, I'll get back to you, and then we can have some questions and answers probably. Okay, can you switch on the second video, please?
On BBC World over the past week. It's run a few times about computer hackers. And basically it was about the Chaos Computer Club, a bunch of computer hackers located over there in Germany. They've taken over a building in Paris. Not in the bad sense. Not, I mean, I can't imagine that happening in New York, but, why not? You just told the folks about the project you guys are working on.
They offered us the Bibliothèque Nationale de France, the French State Library, and that was an offer we couldn't resist.
Tim, are you actually in the building yourself?
Yes, I am.
You are? You're up on what floor?
18, so it's the third line from the top.
Die Bibliothèque Nationale de France hat 4 L-förmige Türme. Davon haben wir nur einen bekommen. 20 Etagen, komplett beleuchtet mit 26 Fenstern. Das ergibt 520 Pixel, 3370 Quadratmeter. Ja, wo ist denn hier der Elektriker?
Der Elektriker kann brauchen, der hat keinen Schlüssel.
Der kann Französisch.
Spiegel, mein Gesicht. Ich hab mehr Gewicht. Ich hab Hacking an die Wand. Und jetzt zirkel ich meine Hand. Ich renn mit mir und schau ins Licht. Mich erreichst du nicht.
Anschauen. Alle sind aus, nur eins ist an. Sie können mit 4 nach links auf dem Haus marschieren und mit 6 nach rechts. Wenn jetzt hier irgendwas ausgefallen ist, Bauscheinwerfer oder ganze Etagen putzen, dann möchte ich das hier sehen. Schon in Etage 11 von oben runtergezählt, jetzt die 10. Und das sieht alles recht gut aus heute.
Diese 20 Etagen mit je 26 Fenstern, mit diesem wunderbaren Dampfplan behangen, die sind halt dafür da, dass wenn der Scheinwerfer auf die Scheibe strahlt, dass man nicht die Scheinwerfer sieht, sondern dass das Ganze mehr oder weniger durch diese opake Fläche einheitlich wirkt.
Bei dieser Installation ist es so, dass wir auch noch 8 Graustufen haben, die wir darstellen können. Also 0 bis ganz hell 8 Mal. Und der Computer nimmt sich nur seine Etage raus, merkt sie sich, und gibt jeder einzelnen Lampe das Signal.
Hier ist die Verkabelung der Lampen aus den Büroetagen. Hier kommt das Steuerkabel an, geht in die Breakout-Boxen, geht dann in die MCU rein. Von dort aus haben wir ein Netzwerkkabel, das in die Cisco geht, und von der geht ein Glasfaserkabel in den Keller.
Wir haben uns gesagt, wir wollen diesmal ein paar mehr Spiele haben. Und wir wollen eigentlich auch gerne, dass die Leute nicht nur Animationen einschicken können, sondern auch Spiele schreiben können. Da ist jetzt hier eine ganze Menge Code entstanden. Ich kann jetzt aber hier einfach sagen, ich will Pac-Man starten. Und dann kann ich hier sozusagen meinen Anruf simulieren und kann hier so eine Runde Pac-Man spielen. Und zurzeit haben wir diesen Anrufer in der Leitung und der spielt Pong.
Arcade Paint. Das wird benutzt, um Filme zu kreieren. Jetzt habe ich hier einen Haufen Bilder, die er mir generiert hat. Die müsste ich jetzt links und rechts ein wenig beschneiden, damit es aufs Haus passt. Da ist ein Chaos BML. Der sieht jetzt im Gegensatz zu der GIF-Animation so aus. Das kann man sich noch hübsch angucken. Direkt im Text. Dann gibt es die Fraktion derjenigen, die ihre 3D-Programme anwerfen und rotierende Objekte jeglicher Art aufs Haus bringen. Also das ist jetzt zum Beispiel das klassische Beispiel für Video. So, und schon ist der Film auf dem Haus.
Ich habe hier auf dem Rechner einen Simulator vom Haus, das Programm, das auch die Filme dann auf dem Haus abspielt. Die Playlist ist ein XML-File und da kann man halt die Reihenfolge der Animationen und Module und Spiele festlegen und halt auch die Geschwindigkeit.
Wir produzieren noch so einzelne Häppchen, die dann unterschiedlich kombiniert werden können. Ein bisschen vorwärts, ein bisschen rückwärts. Und das kann man alles mit den Playlists machen. Und das finde ich total spannend.
Hafersticker
dekadent ist, das gebe ich zu. Also da, wo das Kulturgut der Franzosen gespeichert wird, mal eben eine amerikanische Fernsehserie anzugucken, das hat was, ja.
Die Webseite war bei Arcade der wichtigste Knotenpunkt zwischen der Installation, dass schon im Vorfeld man irgendwie in etwa wusste, worauf es hinausläuft.
Gefeiert vor 2 Tagen in Lille, dann haben wir eine Karte gekriegt, auf der stand Überraschung in Paris. Und jetzt sind wir gerade per Handy an dieser Stelle genutzt worden. Ja, und dann sieht man hier selbst, Höhe des Saisonniers.
Was hier bekannt geworden ist, eben auch nach diesen ersten 10 Tagen, dass dann die Resonanz ganz unglaublich war. Also während der Nuit Blanche sind hier Tausende rumgelaufen, keine Ahnung, wie viele das waren. Auf jeden Fall waren alle Straßen voll. Mag auch mit der Tatsache zu tun haben, dass es eben unsere zweite Installation ist und wir unerwartet viele Animationen eingesendet bekommen. Während wir also bei Blinkenlights am Ende ungefähr 1000 hatten, also nach 5,5 Monaten, waren es hier auch schon gut 500. Also die Hälfte und das eben nur in 10 Tagen. Vielleicht kann man ja auch einfach mal Schach spielen mit einer anderen Stadt.
Vielleicht mal nach Kanada oder nach Australien, nach Mexiko, Tokio.
Die 5. Etage gibt uns nach wie vor physikalische und elektrische Rätsel auf.
Vielleicht einfach runter, einfach Luft Nord.
Naja, es ist Haus Nummer 23, das ist Etage 5, also eigentlich darf sowas da gar nicht funktionieren.
Das ist halt die 5. im Haus 23. Das wundert eigentlich niemanden.
Also unsere Vermutung ist, dass Jörg Soto doch nicht im Pentagon gefangen gehalten wird, sondern in der Bibliothèque Nationale de France. Und dass sich das ausgerechnet in der 5. Etage äußert, würde uns nicht überraschen. Discussion with so many people, I can't count them. I've probably seen all the buildings, at least in Europe so far. But it's very difficult to set up a new project like this. You really have to be very lucky. But we're constantly improving the software, sort of, and we got lots of ideas where we might go to. And in the end, our aim is, of course, world domination. If you are interested in, well, more on the documentation and the video and so on, you all find it on our website on blinkenlights.de. And yeah, thank you for watching and listening to my talk. And if you've got any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Can we get some light, yes, please? Actually, yeah. Actually, we have already been asked by some people I never personally met, even for Kuala Lumpur. They asked us to do a concept for this Menara telecom tower, which we did. I think I even have the simulator here. It looked quite nice, but didn't really shape up because there was just not enough time and so on. But well, we are doing everything. I mean, it's really fun project to do, and it involves quite a lot of logistics. That's the problem. So some things have to come together. Somebody has to give money. We have to have enough time, and the building has to be right. And right is sort of a mix of the building has to be interesting for us. It's not like we're going to address every building, but it is sort of outstanding and has a good position in the city, which works, where people just come by and actually see it without having to go far away in the desert just to get a glimpse. And of course, it has to be either empty or probably inhabited only by a single party, which you can actually talk to, because if it's an office tower with, I don't know, 100 companies, there's no way of having them all agree on well, hello, we are the freaks from Europe, and can we cover your window for like 3 months or so? Yeah, it's going to be fun. We even have flashy lights. It doesn't work, but it could work. Needs some involvement. But then it's really interesting to see how usually the public catches on, even in Paris, although it was only 2 weeks. Once people understood what the idea was, it was impossible to stop them from using it. So the gaming was going on all the time, and they've been flooding us with new animations and new ideas on what to do and how to improve on the interactive side. So it's really a boon to the city as well. In the case of the Bibliothèque Nationale de France, it was this building really had a very, very bad reputation for no real reason. It was just, I don't know, they didn't get their PR right when they were building it, and then it was this yet another costly project that wasn't really running, and nobody really liked that building. And it totally changed after we did the installation, because then for 2 years on, they kept talking about this, the building with the funny images. So it really shifted.